Sometimes we really do fixate a little too much on certain words. I'm also guilty of doing that habitually, as I quite often interject with words like wonderful or fantastic if I think something is super great or amazing or simply nice. These interjections simply roll off the tongue. Some people use the word amazing, so much so that it's reasonable to believe that they are always super high on something fantastic. If I were to ever get up on my high horse one day and told my learners, do not use the words fantastic, super, or amazing, I guess many of them would use it more for the fun of it. That's all in the game. Whatever the case, by the end of this episode, you will have a few more options that will help you to enrich your dialogue when it matters most. Again, this format is by no means a perfect substitute for a complete lesson in the traditional sense. It only intends to supplement your learning experience. These days, my very learned friend and relatively close associate, Sibylle von Spitzen, gets very upset every time I use the word fantastic. Thank heavens I don't ever say super or amazing unless I'm saying not to. Now, Sibylle von Spitzen is a no-nonsense kind of lady, keen on rules, as we all know. She frowns at overuse of the word very and gets palpitations every time she spots, again, overuse of the exclamation mark in text messages. That's another story. Today's focus is on words. I will even try to avoid using my personal favorite interjection, fantastic. I do value the working relationship that we share, and so I shall make every effort to express appreciation, flatter her faculties, and interject when I must, only in new and interesting ways.
Herzlich willkommen zum English Coach Podcast, präsentiert von trainingtree.de, die personalisierte Lösung im Bereich Erwachsenenbildung. Und jetzt dein Gastgeber, iAntonio Patterson.
So, here we are again. Brilliant. Welcome to the English Coach Podcast, episode 9, where I attempt to add a splash of color and life to your learning experience by inviting you to live the language. Spoken word media made with you in mind. Und, wie wir auf Deutsch immer so sagen, lernen mal anders. The word fantastic is an adjective and means that something is extraordinarily good, so extreme as to challenge belief, or is exceedingly large or great. Wonderful means something is exciting or unusually good. So those were my overused expressions. See, I also make the same mistake. However, thank heavens I never got afflicted with awesome. Okay, now to each his own, but our focus for today, remedies to the quite possibly well-perceived overuse of very, super, and amazing. The word very can function as an adjective or as an adverb. It means to a high degree. Super is an adjective and is used to describe something of high grade or quality, something very large or powerful, or something exhibiting the characteristics of its type to an extreme or excessive degree. Amazing is an adjective. It is used to describe something causing great astonishment, great wonder, or surprise. Super and amazing are also often used as interjections. An interjection is an utterance of a word or phrase expressive of emotion or the uttering of an exclamation. So then, what are our options? We need more adjectives. And while we're at it, maybe we look at some adverbs too. Sibylle von Spitzen sagt, and I quote, Many languages, including English, distinguish between adjectives, which qualify nouns and pronouns, and adverbs, which mainly modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. Not all languages make that exact distinction. Many, including English, have words that can function as either. For example, in English, fast is an adjective in a fast car, where it qualifies the noun car, but an adverb in he drove fast, where it modifies the verb drove. Sibylle continues. In Dutch and German, adjectives and adverbs are usually identical in form, and many esteemed grammarians do not make the distinction, but patterns of inflection can suggest a difference. Eine kluge neue Idee, a clever new idea. Eine klug ausgereifte Idee, a cleverly developed idea. A German word like klug, cleverly, takes endings when used as an attributive adjective, but not when used adverbially. It also takes no endings when used as a predicative adjective. Ist klug, he is clever. Whether these are distinct parts of speech or distinct usages of the same part of speech is a question of analysis. It can be noted, while German linguistic terminology distinguishes adverbiale from adjektivische Formen, German refers to both as Eigenschaftswörter, property words. End of quote. Sibylle von Spitzen for you again. I'll tell you a super secret though. I think she uses Wikipedia all the time. But no worries, you can pretend to be the source of all things if you want to, or you can just know where to find it. Adjectives and adverbs are huge topics, and when my learned friend sometimes says, Google it, she actually does mean well. So let's just try a little DIY if we must, but for now let's just focus on our little part for today. We're actually almost halfway through, but as I always say, with a small win is always a good way to begin. This episode 9 of the English Coach Podcast is presented to you by trainingtree.de. Today's episode brought to you through the proud sponsorship of yours truly. I hope you've enjoyed the content so far. So then, we've looked at the meaning of some interesting words and their functions in this context. Let's further focus on our small win for today. Alternatives to the words very, super, and amazing. The word very means to a high degree and functions as an intensifier. When we say very, very, the word very is used to intensify itself. Let's look at some common uses and alternatives. The first alternative is to just drop it all together. Intensity can be exhausting, full stop. Naturally, if you insist on very, you can also say intensifiers can be very exhausting. It's also fine to say rather exhausting. That also fits. For very, we can also say extremely. For very big, enormous or immense. For very, very big, gigantic. Very expensive, pricey, costly, or extravagant. Very interesting, engaging, enthralling, fascinating, or intriguing. Very cold, freezing. Very boring, drab, dry, monotonous, uninteresting, dull. Very slow, creeping, lagging, leisurely, crawling. Very exciting, breathtaking, charged, electric, electrifying, hair-raising, heart-stopping, inspiring, intoxicating, mind-bending, mind-blowing, mind-boggling, rousing, stimulating, stirring, thrilling. The list is endless. Just pick one. Now, I'll invite you to think of some adjectives that you use regularly in your own language. Pay attention, for example, to when your friends and colleagues use the word very, in German sehr. Use an app or a vocabulary book to make note of these adjectives. Any dictionary online like dictionary.com or webster.com will help you to find many more good alternatives together with examples of their use. Adjectives such as slow, for instance, can be used in many ways, in negative or in the positive sense. You will get a richer understanding of context by reading, listening, by getting offline, getting out, and taking part in activities like talking to people. Immersion into an environment within which you already know the overall context, while actively listening for words like very, will help both with pronunciation and retention of the new words and their meanings. Take a little time to read my article on DIY English. You'll find it at www.trainingtree.de/podcast. It's important. It's very important. So much so that I've published it both in English and in German. So then, moving on. The word super is an adjective. It means exhibiting the characteristics of its type to an extreme or excessive degree. Super can also be used as an adverb, meaning very or extremely. Super as a prefix means over and above, higher in quality, quantity, or degree, more than, exceeding the norm, superior in status, title, or position. Super on its own is also an interjection. We'll talk some more about that soon. So then, today is October 31st, 2019, and these days, the word super has achieved super slang status. It has inspired this entire episode 9 almost all on its own. Super! Still again, to each his own. If slang is a swang that best serves you right now, go straight ahead and add super to pretty much any adjective or adverb you can think of. In conversations, interject with super before and after every second sentence and see if it works for you. That's not a joke. Test it out in a safe space. It could be fun. If, however, you're interested in adding some super alternatives to add an air of flair and sophistication to your discourse, well, here are a few for you. Super tired, exhausted. Super expensive, expensive. Super cool, cool. Super hard, difficult. Super smart, brilliant. Super stupid, we say that with a smile. Super hungry, famished. Super short, brief. Super long, protracted. Super fun, fun. Super interesting, interesting. Super amazing, brilliant, splendid, great, marvelous, excellent, awesome, nice. Very, very super amazing. Sibylle von Spitzen knows where you live. Just joking. The word amazing is an adjective. It is used to describe something causing astonishment, great wonder, or surprise. I'll give you some good alternatives later. It can also be used on its own as an interjection. All right, we're coming to the end of this episode 9 of the English Coach podcast. And at this point, I would like to pause a little bit for reflection. I sometimes start this reflection section by asking myself the question, so all in way of saying, what exactly? It all depends. It always does. You have to decide what works for you. Try to take notice of how your speech is affecting your listener. Find a safe space to test things out. Decide based on the feedback that you get. Interjections come in many forms. They are words, utterances, and or so-called non-words that on their own communicate the speaker's mental state or mental attitude. Interjections sometimes feel like that pesky exclamation mark that pops up too much, I think, in text messages or any kind of, sometimes, like in emails or any short messages that we might send. And speaking of mental states, overuse of the exclamation mark or interjections can evoke feelings of anxiety in your listener or reader. It can communicate fickleness, immaturity, or give the feeling of a rather uncomfortable pitch. Examples of interjections with which you are by now quite familiar, I'm sure, are super, amazing, and awesome. The list of these interjections is quite long and also includes the many splendid, rather famous four-letter word that many of us use every day. It starts with F and ends with K. But that, together with the exclamation mark, is a topic for another day. When you become more aware of overuse, which again is relative, you might notice a similarity to how some of us use profanity. A fun exercise could be to try to substitute super or amazing with different forms of a fun four-letter word of your choice. And for my German natives, just try substituting the comma in spoken language with the word halt, another fun four. Zum Beispiel: Ich bloke halt 2 Sprachen, weil ich halt manchmal so viel zu sagen halt habe. So ist es halt. Again, super amazing has the same meaning as brilliant, splendid, great, marvelous, excellent, awesome, and nice. But doesn't nice mean normal, ordinary, politely put, or even boring? Not necessarily. Sometimes it means extraordinary, depending on the context and intonation. Check the meme. And one last question while we reflect. What's gonna happen? What will we say when we really see something that is very super amazing or awesome? If super and amazing do in fact start to feel like bad words, maybe they feel that way to your boss too. If you are a little older and you like to use some slang to seem younger, remember that you might be giving the youngsters another fantastic reason to laugh with you when you're there and at you when you're not. If, however, you want to express more elegance and sophistication marked by your choice of words, you might explore some alternatives to very, super, and amazing. Here are a few. Brilliant, splendid, fantastic, wonderful, great, marvelous, splendiferous, excellent, spectacular, breathtaking, intriguing, fabulous. We can even get a little trump and say tremendous. With a small win is always a good way to begin. Okay, then we've come to the end of episode 9 of the English Coach podcast, season 1. Feel free to check out the show notes for this episode at www.trainingtree.de/podcast. Like it if you like it, and if you don't, lie to me. Feel free to share it with a friend, post a rating, or better yet, write a comment. This will help it to help you as it is intended to do. Subscribe only if you feel like, so you know when there's a new episode available. Season 1 of the English Coach podcast will feature about 16 fantabulous episodes. Be sure to tune in. Thanks for listening, looking forward to hearing from you, and bye for now.